Hello and welcome to another episode of Wellness with EAC. My name is Nicole Guanzura, and I have the joy of being your host on the show. We talk about all things to do with your career and well-being. We're also talking about your journey. We're unlocking, I would say, the door, the curtains, peeking behind the curtains of where you are today and how you became that person. Oftentimes, I think when we look on social media, you're looking at someone and you have this peripheral view or highlight of who they are or who they might be, but you don't know about the things that they've been through or experienced. And I think as humans who crave connection and need to be able to find some relatability, I love to be able to play that small portion on this podcast. We also talk about the financial well-being side of things because on a day-to-day, I'm talking to clients a lot about how they're navigating the professional development while maintaining their financial and mental well-being in mind. And of course, you know I'm going to talk about my faith. This is just a part of my journey, and I love to encourage my guests to be able to talk about their faith and how that has made their journey in one direction or another. And when I have guests that come on, I get really excited to hear people's stories and backgrounds. And today's is such a special one because it's really diving into some really cool behind the scenes, but also just this beauty of how God moves in people's lives and in our lives, and how he works so many things together for our good. And the harder we lean on him, just the results that come out of that. And honestly, even when we're not fully leaning, the fact that he will still come towards us. He wants a relationship with us. So he's going to continue to pursue us like a gentleman, right? Some people are like, I've heard someone say, well, if God really loved me and, he gave me free will, why couldn't he just make me do this one thing or another? Well, that's not love. Would you love somebody if they just told you what to do all the time? It would not work. There's other words for that, but not God's love. So I'm excited to have Patience Gaye on the show today. She is someone I've known for a while now and met her through one of my best friends from college. You've already by now listened to her husband Tabut's episode. And so all part of the family. So I'm excited that, through my friend Bessem, I've met Tabut, I've met Patience, and just life keeps getting better when you have community and people around you. So today, Patience is going to be talking about her journey. She's going to tell us a little bit about her background. So I want to tell you a couple of things about Patience, and then she's going to tell you about the real deal, who she is. So she loves being in the outdoors. So hiking, swimming, anything that has to do with the outdoors, you can find her over there. She loves to travel. Notably, her favorite place to travel has been Singapore. So if you chat with her, ask her about Singapore. Maybe she can give you a travel list. Maybe she can give you a hotel recommendation. And also, she has quite the silly personality, fun personality. Once you get to know her, though. So I just love how open she already has been. And you can tell by some of the things I'm sharing about her. But I want to turn it over to my amazing guest for today. Patience, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so glad you are here. I have heard snippets of your story, but now, I am just as ready as our listeners to literally sit back. I mean, I'll respond as I need to, but really, I just want to hear you. Tell us more. Take us behind the curtains. Who is Patience?
That is a great question. Who is Patience? Patient is someone who, well, talk about myself, right? I cannot be put in a box. I think most of my friends and family member would tell you that. So for me to say who patient is kind of, I am a unique person.
Mm-hmm.
I have compassion for people. I love God.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very much hardworking. Um, I'm one of those people that have different skills, a lot of different skills. They were, I consider them to be like hobbies, but they're more like gifts that God has given me. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm more of the artistic person, but I would say overall I can be put in a box, but I am so many different. There's so many different aspects of me, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Um, and there's so much we're going to be unpacking in that, because just even sharing about the journey. One other thing I haven't even mentioned to you all, she is an executive chef, by the way. Not just any kind of chef, a whole executive chef. And she owns her business, Chef P. And it is incredible when you see, if you're ever on her Instagram, and I'll link her Instagram down below, just to see her in her creative nature, like in her creative work and the things that she puts together. It's food, but it's a work of art, but then it has love in it. Like when you look at food and somebody put their
That is
whole
the
heart
key.
into it,
Mm-hmm.
that is what you see. It's like, I can't explain it, but when you see it, you're going to get exactly what I'm trying to say. So, Patience, please continue to take us down the road. Tell us a little bit about, your background and your journey, and help us lead into your testimony.
Sure. So I used to work in a whole nother field, and I always knew that I wanted to be more into food, decorating, events, things that just bring joy and bring memories to people's
Mm-hmm.
lives. So that was always my first love and passion when it comes to being a chef. But as you know, you're African. Your parents do tell you to go to school for something
Yeah.
else that's in a certain field. You become a lawyer, doctor, and help field, or something that's engineer. But
Mm-hmm.
I end up doing PT
Mm-hmm.
assistant, and I was doing that for a little while, and I switched over because I had this. I went through a divorce. So
Mm.
let's go back
Yeah.
before I got into this career. I went through a divorce, and that was hard.
Mm.
But after that divorce, for me, I started tapping into things that either made me afraid and things that I love to do, but too afraid to do it.
Mm.
So that divorce kind of woke me up to be my actual self and to pursue the things that I love.
Mm.
So after that happened, I tap into like, I'm going to go back to school. So I went back to school and I got my degree, advanced. I got my degree in culinary arts. And once I got my degree in that, I'm like, okay, what, where am I going to go with this?
Mm.
Because I love the art of cooking and I love the love you can pour into cooking and
Yeah.
the reaction people get when make something that is really amazing. Their body language changes. It brings joy to them. So I'm like, where can I go? So I did, after finishing school, I did an externship at a restaurant in Baltimore. And that's where I actually got my mentor from. But once I did that externship, one of the advice that I got from my mentor was to explore all parts of this career. Even though I
Mm.
have passion for it and I love it, to explore all path of it. Because if you think about being a chef or cooking, you can cook in different places, right? You can
Right.
cook in a hotel, you can cook on a cruise, you can become a chef in a restaurant, in a hospital environment, pretty much where anybody is wanting some food.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a job in that aspect. So he wanted me to explore all those parts and figure out where I wanted to be at.
Mm.
So I listened to him and I started my first job, which where my externship was, and I went from that position. I was catering chef.
Mm-hmm.
So that was interesting to me because, as you know, Nicole, that I did a little bit more decoration before I entered this actual field of becoming a
Yeah.
chef.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, I can put the room together, make it look beautiful, but I can also make sure that food is, on point and presented well. So I'm like, okay, I can handle this title. So I took that job and I learned a lot about that job because
Mm.
I got to kind of help people put their event together in a sense of the food aspect of it, but also help them figure out, how it's going to be displayed.
Mm.
So that job taught me a lot, being organized, giving them different ideas how their food is going to, depend on who their background is, what
Mm.
kind of food they like. And I got introduced to different people. So that part was what I actually enjoyed the most because I got to do an Indian wedding where the
Mm.
food is different there. I
Yeah.
did African wedding, of course. Um, and we had a Hispanic wedding also. So it was like different. You got to meet different backgrounds and different people and different
Mm-hmm.
food, different culture. So that was a lot to learn in that sense. And after that part of it, I said, okay, what else is next? What else can
Mm.
I learn in this field? Because I love doing this, but I want to learn more. And my next step was to learn more about plating.
Mm.
So I'm like, I really want to know about how to make my food is amazing. Flavors is great, but I
Right.
wanted to learn more about presenting it and plating it. So
Mm.
yeah, I got to challenge myself. Where can I go next? And I went into a restaurant, an Italian restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And one little fun fact about me, I love Italian food. So I was like, okay, this is going to be fun. Let's give this a try.
Yeah.
I started working at an Italian restaurant, and that Italian restaurant actually had a beautiful, it was a farm to table type of vibe.
Mm.
And they had a lot of events, a lot of weddings, baby showers, meetings. And then they have this beautiful tent outside of the restaurant. They have seating outside the restaurant. So it always reminded me of um, like a little bit of Italy, a little bit. Even though I've never been to
Mm.
Italy, but it's like it kind of gives that environment a little bit.
Yeah.
But I worked in that environment. I learned a lot about farm to table food, about
Mm-hmm.
Italian food. And then again, my experience of me doing catering, not catering, but decorating came
Mm-hmm.
in place too because I'm like, how is this gonna tie into that? Because like I said, I love being creative.
Yeah.
I love the fact that this career was giving me a chance to not just be creative with the food, but be creative about how I present it. And there is where I learned more about plating, about people eat with their eyes first and then
Mm-hmm.
their sense, all the pretty much all your senses, right?
Yeah.
So I learned a lot in that environment, more about plating, more about just making sure everything is presented well in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and of course the farm to table in food also. So that was fun. I learned a lot there and I loved it there. And I'm like, okay, so what's next? Because I'm listening to my mentor. He gave me a lot of good advice, but I'll go
Mm-hmm.
back to some of the other advice that he gave me when it came to this career later on.
Yeah.
I am I'm there for about maybe a year and a half, almost 2 years. So I left that environment and I'm like, okay, where else do I want to go?
Mm.
What we're gonna try next? The health field. And knowing my background came from the health field before I actually became a chef, I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I want to go back into a hospital or assisted living type of vibe. I don't think I want to do that.
Mm.
So I said, okay, maybe I should see because being in the health field, I it was a different view, right? Because you're
Mm.
helping people that are not feeling well, but I was never exposed to the food part of it. So I said, okay, I'm going to go back into the health field for, becoming a chef. So I got a
Yeah.
job in an assisted living as a chef manager.
Mm-hmm.
And loved it. I loved it.
Huh.
Even though I was running away from being into, from the actual health environment, I
Right.
actually fell in love with providing food in that sense because I always wanted to help people,
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that this was still helping people that, were not themselves, they were at a certain stage in their life where they're either sick or they're at the stage where they're, people consider to be their end stage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're not feeling well. So I'm like, okay, I can actually make a difference here.
Mm.
And that was the key. That was where my passion came from when it came to cooking. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And I got to learn a lot there too, because you got to see people diet changes, right? The
Mm.
diet changes. Some people can't swallow regular, food that you and I can actually eat. I got
Yeah.
to learn about mechanical diet. I got to learn about,
Mm.
parade diet, and kind of getting more creative in that sense, because you think about parade diet, you're like, okay, it's all food that is like, mashed up and parade through, and they're
Yeah.
eating it that way. It's not quite appealing to see or to even
Mm.
eat. So I started learning more about that. I'm like, I want to make these people food still taste great, but
Mm-hmm.
still look like the actual food that we're eating ourselves. So,
Mm.
for example, if we're offering roasted chicken or lemon chicken, I still wanted it to look like a chicken. I still wanted it to have the flavor in there. So
Yeah.
that part was fun, but it was also rewarding, because I was bringing joy into these people's life, and not nobody wants to eat food that looks like anything on the plate.
Right.
So I got to learn how to plate those. I got to learn how to add flavor in that. So I'm like, okay, I love doing this. And then of course I was feeding regular, people also. So I'm like, okay, I love doing this. So I did that
Mm.
for a little while, and I was like, okay, what's next? And I want to come back to the hospital environment or the health field environment, because I did go back. But before I
Mm-hmm.
went back to that the environment, I decided to take a job at a university.
Mm.
So I'm like, okay, now population health field, the population is, of course, is high risk, right?
Yeah.
But also it's high risk when it comes to college kids and just kids in general. So
Mm-hmm.
they have a lot of allergies, and they're very much more picky, the college environment. So I
Mm-hmm.
had worked at that university as a chef manager also.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, that was challenging for me, because I have more of college kids that are working there, and I was their
Right.
boss. And being a mom, I have a teenager right now, but at the moment, I was like, oh, this is a lot, because
Mm.
yeah, because you got teenagers that trying to figure out their careers and who they are, and some are very much, steadfast into what they want to do. Their mindset is
Mm-hmm.
made up, and they're still learning who they are. So there were that challenged me as a manager to kind of figure out, how can I relate to these kids? How can I make an
Mm.
impact? How can I because this was a job for them, just to get a little
Yeah.
bit of cash, right? It was not something
Right.
that they wanted as a career. They were there for
Mm-hmm.
something else. It was not something they're going to take seriously. So I had to
Mm-hmm.
find ways of communicating with them as a manager, but at the same time, they were able to relate to me in a sense. That
Mm.
way, that respect is there. So that was challenging as a manager. I learned a lot about myself in that
Mm-hmm.
role,
Yeah.
and about the kids also. So that was nice. I learned that. I'm like, okay, I think I've experienced a little bit, where to go, where to navigate a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to try a hotel next.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I stopped at for the moment. I tried a hotel environment, which was
Mm-hmm.
a lot on me,
Mm-hmm.
because hotels has a lot of events that happens all the time.
Yeah.
And cooking, you're cooking for a large amount of people.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'm not coming home until late at
Mm.
night. And at that moment, I was a single mom. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this can't work for me. As much as I love, this on a larger scale, I wanted to do it where my passion was still coming through.
Of course.
I
Yeah.
do not want to lose the passion of this second career it's actually my first career, because I love what I do. But
Mm-hmm.
I found myself in that environment, losing my passion a little bit,
Mm.
because it was so much on a larger scale. Even though I enjoyed the response that I got back from, if they loved the food,
Yeah.
it was more of, you had to put out a certain amount of product, right? It took
Mm.
out the fun out of it for me, and it took out the
Hmm.
passion part of it for me. So I'm like, okay, this is not what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was there for a little while, and I left that, and I went back to the health field,
Hmm.
and that's where I've been at the whole time. So went back to the health field, and I went into assisted living where I was there for a long time. That
Hmm.
assisted living actually made one of my dreams that I wanted to do
Hmm.
come true, and that was going to Texas.
Mm.
I wanted to experience. I worked for this assisted living for a couple of years
Yeah.
and enjoyed it. Enjoyed the impact that I was making,
Hmm.
and I wanted to go to. I wanted to move to Texas
Hmm.
because moving to Texas was a goal for me, not just to go live in Texas.
Yeah.
It was for me to move to Texas to pursue something that I wanted to do, which is open a restaurant.
Mm.
So this job allows me to be able to transfer there,
Right.
and they transfer me, pay for everything, transfer me there, and packed up my stuff with my kid. And we moved there, and I'm like, okay, it's a new adventure. We're going to try things, new things.
Hmm.
And we moved to Texas. We moved to Texas.
Wow.
We got there, got a apartment there, put my kid in school, started his new career as a chef
Mm.
manager there. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. It's uncomfortable because
Yeah.
it's a new place, and I've never, I had a kid with me, and I was by
Hmm.
myself, so I
Right.
had to figure it out. I'm like, okay,
Hmm.
I can do this. A lot of women, change location, and sometimes you got to get a little uncomfortable.
Just a tad. Yeah.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
kind of see where the next adventure is going to lead you, or where God's going to
Okay.
lead you.
Hmm.
So I left Maryland, and I went there and took the job, started working there, and that taught me a lot about myself.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah, taught me a lot about myself. I
Yeah.
don't know if you want me to elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah. So actually, I want to pause there for a second to just reflect on just this extensive journey you've taken us through your career so far.
Yeah,
Because one of the key things I keep hearing is how, your curiosity, right, paired with your hard work continues to drive you from one role to another. And I think this is something so important for people to learn, especially right now in this environment where it's not just 1 year that the market seems tough, right? Things keep shifting over and over. And so now, I don't know, like, I mean, for a little while longer, people are going to be crying the same story. But what does it look like to be creative and use your skills in a different environment like you did, right? Because sometimes it was going to be in the assisted living, it was going into working in a hotel, it's working into like in the you're looking at these spaces and learning not only that, but the different types of diets, different styles of cooking, different styles of even just presentation. You're seeing the greater picture of how can my skills apply to the environment that I'm in? And how can my curiosity still satisfy me in that place? And I really want to point that out because that's a powerful skill that you have and that you've been flexing that not everybody knows how to use. Like that right there is exactly how you use transferable skills. So I just want to applaud you for that because
thank
it is
you.
literally the same theme, curiosity plus hard work. You're not saying I'm curious about it and complaining your way through. You're like, I'm going to go look for it. Somebody would have been like, oh, wait, I worked over here, but I'm too good to work in an assisted living. So like, I'm too good to, what do you mean? Or how can you, but you're like, no, I'm curious. No, why should puree food look like it came out of a can and could have been shared with your cat?
Mhm.
So I just wanted to pause there and just give you your flowers for that because I hope people are going to take notes on that. That is really powerful.
Yeah, I think you just when it comes to just anybody career, right? Any career field you're in, you want to brush up on your skills and you want to learn all avenue of that, career. Not just because it builds your own character or it builds, you learning more about it, but you want to be comfortable with whatever comes your way and who
Yeah.
you're helping, right? Because you just
Yeah.
never know. So my thing is, I was so curious about this food industry that I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn everything. I
Yeah.
was not just going to these jobs and being like, okay, it's time to go, it's time to go. I wanted to get something from that position,
Mm.
from that people. I wanted to learn something so that way I can be able to pass it on, not just to other chefs out there or female chefs out there, but I
Mm-hmm.
wanted my skills of the food industry, the
Yeah.
skill of being a chef, right?
Yeah.
To be able to help no matter where I went at, to be able to say, okay, I know this, I know this, I know that, but
Mm.
not to brag about it, but to help people. Yeah.
Absolutely. And they need experts that are not only skilled, but experts that continue to upskill like you are,
Yeah.
because then you help them with the proper support that they need
Yeah.
versus just, yes, cook with your heart all you want to, but also there's places where you're going to have to just know some basic knife skills, know some basic, So
Yeah.
I think it's important to have that. So now I want to dive into, the other side of this, right? So you're navigating through this as a single mom. And at the time, your daughter was not a teenager. She was still in a very, not that she's not dependent on you now, but she
Yeah.
was more dependent on you then. So talk to us about what that balance was like for you, or has been like for you, just raising your daughter. And, have you had community that have been chipping in, the times where you've been having to figure it out? Because there are probably a number of moms or somebody who's listening who knows someone who's like, I'm trying to pursue this, but how do I do this with the kid in tow?
Support is important. Having
Mm-hmm.
your village is important. I did not come this far without my village. I would say that for sure.
What do you
And
mean? You're not self-made?
no, I'm not. I can't take the credit. I cannot take the credit.
Yeah.
I did the hard work, yes, but I had some incredible women in my life
Mm,
that were either praying for me, pushing me, helping me with my daughter. It was not done by just by me. Of course, by
mm,
God, for sure.
yeah.
Because having this vision to go start a new career that you've been having a passion about for the longest,
Hmm.
I had these women tell me, "You're so good at decorating. You're so good at cooking. You love doing it. Go
Yeah.
back to school." And I'm like, "How am I going to do that? I'm a single mother.
Yeah.
I'm a single mom. I am just trying to get a paycheck to make sure I pay the bills, and stay where I'm at and make sure this, income comes in and we're okay."
Yeah.
And I'm like, and at the same time, I'm getting, you get the negative feedback from other people where like, okay, how are you going to make some money being a chef?
Mm,
Like, what are you going to do? Right.
right.
But the women in my life were like, no, you have a great talent.
Hmm.
You do this and we're going to help you.
Yeah.
So I had, when I was in culinary school, and culinary school was in Baltimore.
Hmm.
So I had to leave work a full-time shift, leave work and take night classes.
Mm,
So I would leave my daughter with a friend of mine, which I consider to be another mentor, a mom, a
hmm.
sister, who I would leave my daughter with.
Mm,
We'll take night classes to become a chef. So
yeah.
I would drop Giselle off and I will go to school and I'm coming back around like 11 o'clock at night, picking her up
Mm,
to rush home to make sure she's sleeping, to get ready to drop her off to school
mm,
and do it all over again.
yeah.
And at times it wasn't easy, Nicole. I've had moments where I'm sitting there by myself in tears and I'm like, what are you doing?
Mm,
You're going to affect this child's life by, dropping her off and going to school and working and like you don't have time for yourself. And then she has activities too. So I'm juggling all that in between, just trying to
yeah.
keep her life normal in some type of way
Hmm.
because yes, I'm pursuing this career, right? But at the
Yeah.
same time, I didn't just go through a divorce. She also went through a divorce,
Mm.
right? Because she still has her dad, but
Yeah.
she's not in a household where it's two parents anymore.
Right.
So I am juggling keeping her life normal and trying to pursue this dream, this vision that God has given me for the longest time
Mm.
that I was afraid to do,
Mm-hmm.
and keep her life normal.
Mm.
So that part of it, when it comes to having support and having a village, I had a lot of women in my life. And these
Mm.
are friends from, my high school days and friends that became, family
Yeah.
down the road. Because if people tell you sometimes your family is your family, but your friends, when you become an adult, your friends become your family.
Yeah.
So they are not my friend, they are my family. And these women, even if they weren't there in person, they
Mm-hmm.
called and checked on me.
Yes.
They assist me in certain ways, and they prayed for me.
Mm.
They were physically there with me through,
Mm-hmm.
taking care of Giselle. So the village is very important, but God, God is. I can tell you, Nicole,
Yeah.
there are many the silence times when you're by yourself, right? You had a
Mm.
rough day, you worked all these hours, you're making
Uh-huh.
sure your kids' homework is done, making sure you have food on the table,
Mm-hmm.
trying to pour all of that into, you know, yourself into a new career, job, your kid. You don't
Mm.
have much left for yourself because you're
Right.
you're you're, you're working. You're
Yeah.
trying to get to this goal. So for me personally, I my conversations in those quiet moments is with God
Mm.
because me processing, I didn't have time to process my
Mm.
divorce. I didn't have time to process me being tired,
Mm.
or I just needed to keep moving.
Yeah.
So I had my moments where I was broken.
Mm.
And the only person I could go to was God. Even though I had my village helping
Yeah.
me out and praying for me, I had to sit with God and say, God, please show me a sign what I'm doing is right.
Mm.
Let me know, because that guilt of being a mom and being all over the place,
Yeah.
not an easy guilt. You're like,
No.
is it worth it, right? Is
Right.
this career gonna be worth it? Should I just stick with where I know where I'm at?
Mm.
I wanted growth and I wanted my passion to show through. And it's okay to be a mom and have a career. It's okay to
Yep.
pursue the things you love. I
Yes.
think sometimes we get into a headspace where we feel like, well, we got to make sure the kids grow off to college first before we pursue the things that we want to do, right? But for me,
Mm.
I wanted my daughter to see that you can do those things and be a mom. You can do those things and be a wife. You can do those
Yep.
things and still be yourself.
Yes.
So I wanted her to see that because I went through something that was so dramatic, so painful,
Mm.
that is okay.
Yeah.
It's one chapter in my life that that needed to happen, I guess, right? Because I end up somewhere where I am so grateful where I'm
Mm.
at now.
Yeah.
Those steps and those journeys and those painful moments had to happen for me to be where I'm at. And I think I showed my kid
Mm.
not just, and I hate using this word, strong mom, but
Yeah.
I showed my kid that life is going to happen and it's what you do with that
Yes.
makes you who you are, right?
Yeah.
It changes your life, it changes you for the better. So don't feel sorry for yourself. Keep God close. Talk to God every chance you get.
Mm.
But no matter how hard your journey is
Mm.
to get to wherever you're trying to get to, you got to trust the steps that God is directing you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a whole word right there. It's It's essential. And thank you for sharing that because we talk about it consistently about the power of community, and the power of that village and the power of your faith. I think, the way in which God works is by sending those destiny helpers. And some of them are there for a season and they have to go. They have to leave. Exit left. Thank you for those 3 months. They were fantastic. But where I'm going, he doesn't want me going with you.
And that was hard for me, Nicole. That was very hard for me.
Oh,
Like you lose people as you grow. I am somebody who holds on to the people that I love dearly.
yes.
Like I'm like, why does that have to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can you these people been part of my life since I was, a kid or a
Yeah.
teenager, or it, they made some kind of impact in my life, so I want to hold on to them, and I'm always seeing the good in people, and
Yeah.
that part I had to learn the hard way, because you're right, you can't take everybody those stages, you just can't. They are there for a season, and that
Hmm.
is something that I've learned down the road also, that it's okay. It don't have to be a hateful thing.
No.
But when God said, okay, this person is in your life for this reason, for this purpose, for this season, and they have to go now,
Yeah.
you have to, or you learn the hard way, right? You have to let them go. You
You
have to.
have to. And I've been praying dangerous prayers, because I'm like, Lord, well, okay, so who is in my life that's not supposed to be there anymore? Who's in my life who means me harm? Who is in my life that, is just has overstayed their season, Lord? And let me tell you something, he always answers. But where he's growing me, and I know where he's been growing, where he's grown you too, is like that discernment, right? Because each time you learn the hard way, you're like, okay, so what muscle grew in that? Like, what did I
Yeah.
learn? Because for me, that discernment, I remember with like a recent disconnection with someone, it was like the Holy Spirit just kept giving me this feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime I talk to this person, anytime they're around, like I just felt uneasy and I
Mm.
couldn't shake it.
Yeah.
But it seemed good on the other side. It seemed even holy on the other side. But let me tell you, there was a reason why there's a lot of scripture around that discernment and test people's fruit. And so I was like, okay, you know what? Then I call my friend. I'm like, am I judging this person? Like, let me know. Like, I just feel it, but okay, Holy Spirit, you're not telling me, okay, check me, friend. Like, am
Did,
I judging? Like,
did
check
you
me.
find yourself making excuses for them? Like maybe it's
Yes.
because of this, maybe because of that, maybe that's why they're like this, or are they okay with you being not growing, right? They see you in a certain way where it's like you're in that head. You're not allowed to be anywhere else but what they see you as in the past. Like they
Well,
can't see you anywhere else now. You're not
yeah.
allowed to grow. You're not allowed to have boundaries.
And I've had it both ways where it has been like that. And they seem like I should be giving you all the opportunities.
Yeah,
And then I've seen it now on the other side where it was like, I see your potential. I see the power God has given you. And
yeah.
I'd like to latch onto that to see how much of it can be leveraged for my own good, which I don't mind sharing the gifts that I have and what I do and experience. It's
Uh
not for
huh.
me to hold on to. If I have
Uh-huh.
something I can share with you, someone I can introduce you to, I'm going to be your number one hype woman. But let's not try to steal that. Let's try to
But
like,
is that all I'm good for, right?
right.
Is that the only reason you're in my life is to take, take, take?
Yes, because
And if I
when I stopped, interacting, so did they.
well, you got your
So,
answer, right?
but I had to. I was like, what's that feeling? Okay, friend, check me. Okay, Holy Spirit, what were you saying again?
Yeah,
Okay. And he's like,
yeah,
look here.
yeah.
So I think it's so important with that discernment, and just like the journey. I think there's so many things you've touched on today alone about just, following not just your curiosity, but working hard and sharing those transferable skills. But then you're also talking about this value of community and friendships and talking about these destiny helpers that the Lord sends to you and the paths that He has for you. Because as we acknowledge Him and trust Him, He will make our path straight. So my last question to you, Patience, is then, what does wellness mean to you?
Mhm. What does wellness mean to me? Wellness mean to me mentally, physically, and spiritually
Mm-hmm.
being in tune with yourself.
Mm.
I am I think that's why I navigated so much towards the health field when it comes to being a chef.
Yeah.
You get to you see people's, I guess, their the end stage of them not being well, right?
Mm. Yeah.
And you get to see that life is short.
Yeah.
So for me, even though I love being a chef, I did not want to be where I'm like working the 14, the 13, the 15-hour shifts and not enjoying
Mm.
what it is I like to do.
Yeah.
I didn't want my career to be my personality, right?
Right.
I didn't want my career to be something that was going to make me completely. Now, I understand the hard work of getting to those stages, right?
Yeah.
But I did not want it to become where I don't enjoy what the reason why I went into it. So,
Mm.
wellness for me is me. I got to take care of myself because it will pour into everybody else, right? So
Mm.
I got to take care of myself, and how that looks like for me now is I do a lot of outdoor activities. I
Mm.
truly enjoy hiking. I truly enjoy being outside,
Yeah.
and not in that way, but just being outside, enjoying nature, and that brings peace for me.
Mm.
And one thing that I do for myself now, and I've been doing it for a while now, for a couple of years, is
Yeah.
I once a month I take myself and I do a self-care. So
Mm.
that's wellness for me.
Yeah.
Because being a chef, you're on your feet all day. So I take that one time a month. I used to do it twice, and I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to try to go back to doing it twice a month.
Yeah.
But I go and I get a massage,
Mm.
and I do the things that bring relaxation to me, not just
Mm-hmm.
mentally, but physically also. I
Yeah.
spend time talking to God. That also helps my spirit, right?
Yep.
So I take time, just how I pour time into this career and pour time into other people and pour time
Mm.
into my kid. You have to make time for yourself and the things that takes care of you, your
Mm.
health, your mental, just overall you.
Yeah.
So wellness for me is all of that. You
Yeah.
have to take time, no matter how much of vision you have and goals you have and things you want to achieve and stuff on the checklist that you got to get done. That part has to be on the checklist too.
Yes.
It has to be on the checklist too, because if this person is not okay, none of those things are going to happen. So you got to take yourself away from, being so busy doing all the other things that you got to get done.
Yeah.
And one of the practices that I do, Nicole, now
Mm.
is I turn when I'm off, if I have 2 days off, one day is for me to do absolutely what I love to do.
Mm.
That means me getting a massage, me going for a hike, me turning off my phone, turning off social media, not replying back to certain, just not replying back at all, emails and everything else. I don't
Yeah.
reply back. I turn all of that off
Yeah.
because the world is busy, right? You go out
Right.
there, you're talking to so many people, things are happening. You pour into this people, you pour into that person.
Mm.
I take that one day those 2 days I'm off. One of those days is for me to completely turn off.
Yes.
You have to do that
Yeah.
because I become a better friend. I
Mm.
become a better daughter, a better mother, a better boss. So I advise any career woman, I just forget about just being in career, the career part of it. Any woman that's out there that
Mm-hmm.
is busy, that have things going on for themselves, you got to be 100% into that decision of making sure you're part of the schedule.
Yeah.
Because I love a schedule. That's how I survive, right? I have to have things on the schedule that I can get done because I have so many things that I'm juggling. So for me, I have to make time for me.
Mm.
I have to make time for me, and I have to make time for the things that's outside of my career, right? I got to make time for my daughter. I got to make time for my significant other. I got to make time for the outside. I got to have a life
Yeah.
beyond the career.
Yeah.
So that's what wellness look. I know it's a lot, but that's
No,
what
that's
wellness looks
essential.
like for me.
That's
Yeah.
essential. And I think that's a great place to close out our conversation because, like, what more do you say to that? That's exactly what it should be. Every woman should be doing that. And patients, I mean, this conversation has been so uplifting for me. In just the way that we're thinking about ourselves, and the way that we're thinking about just how we approach lives, as women in all our different facets. And so I'm going to share all your contact information, your Instagram information. I think Instagram is going to be the best way, right? To get in touch with you if anybody wants to DM you or check out that food. Check out her talents, please, because you will get exactly what I was saying earlier in the conversation. But patients, thank you for being a part of the Wellness with EAC podcast community. I thank you for just the encouragement you've been giving me since I launched the podcast. And what a cool, full circle moment that you have now graced us with your presence as a guest on the podcast. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Nicole.
Of course, it's been such a joy. And for anybody who's listening to us on Spotify, Apple Music, I hope you've really enjoyed connecting with us. If you want to see Patience and I, we are on YouTube, so you can see us in person as well. Leave us a comment, leave us a note about what wellness means to you. And also let us know, what other topics do you want to hear? What stood out to you from this conversation? What do you resonate with? Leave a yes, girl, or whatever, you feel led to as you're listening to this. But again, I'm Nicole Guanzura. This is the Wellness with EAC podcast. Until next time, take great care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.